Joining us now is U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence, representing Michigan's 14th Congressional District in Congress. Once again on the MegaCast. Representative Lawrence, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, and to your entire team. And so I want to start off with, you recently announced that you will not be seeking re-election in 2022 to continue to represent Michigan's 14th Congressional District. Can you talk to us a little bit about your decision to not run for re-election in 2022 and kind of how you came to make that decision that this is the time for you to step away?
Well, I want everyone to know that my first message to you is thank you. The people of the 14th District, the people of Southfield, have supported me for over 30 years. I have been an elected official for 30 years, school board, city council, mayor, and now Congress. I have had an amazing career. And if I can sum it up, I want people to know that my life has been this really good book, and I've been reading it and living it. And now I can't wait to turn the page and create and read the next chapter of my life. I'm excited, it's bittersweet because I love public service. I plan on continuing to serve in some capacity as I move on to this next chapter of my life.
And of course, Representative Lawrence, those being your reasons for not seeking re-election and from stepping away from congressional politics going forward. Of course, there's been other politicians that are either stepping away or having to re-strategize their future as well due to the proposed redistricting from the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission that will, of course, apply to state and federal congressional districts here in the state of Michigan for the next 10 years. There's been a lot of controversy with those maps, particularly in areas that have majority-minority represented districts currently, that have leaders in office across the board here in the state of Michigan and congressionally that better represent populations of those communities. What are your thoughts on the work of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission in producing these maps, as well as some of the backlash that has come at the commission for their final maps, given the circumstances that are affecting communities that already have had, rightfully so, gripes about a lack of proper representation in government?
Well, I want you to know that when we voted, and I was one of those who supported taking the drawing of our district lines away from politicians and put it into an independent commission. But one of the challenges that I've seen and disappointments is in drawing districts that are in compliance with the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act said communities of common interest, and for me, that's the African American community, are drawn in a way that they can elect someone that will be representative, and usually it implies that they're one of that group. And I don't feel that the commission was in compliance with that. There has been lawsuits filed, and I am in support of putting it in front of the judge to make sure that the law was adhered to when they drew the districts, to ensure that it's minority majority. And I've heard things like, well, 47% is majority. No, it is not. And it's not lost on me that I'm the only African American representative to Congress for the state of Michigan, for the entire state. And so as I transition to the next phase of my life, I'm going to be working very hard to encourage and support African Americans to run in those districts that are the two, and that's 12 and 13, that are traditionally in compliance with the Voting Rights Act.
And you speak on representation, and you mentioned that you are Michigan's only only African American representative in the U.S. Congress at this moment in time. And of course, with your retirement, there's a possibility that going forward there may not be, depending on the outcome of the upcoming elections in 2022. But going forward in the future, as of course you're retiring from office, but you're still going to be active politically in our local area and on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan and of your local area. So, I won't ask you about the opposing majority party because you don't know about that. But in your party, in the Democratic Party going forward, for representatives like you, especially locally here in the state of Michigan and even at the federal level representing the state of Michigan, what sort of efforts are being put forward or need to be put forward in your political party in order to help anoint those next representatives in our government that are going to be diverse voices and are going to be able to represent these communities while also representing other sub-communities in our local area, while also providing that representation for these majority-minority groups in these various areas that in places that are currently being put into lawsuit for the current redistricting maps are not being properly represented.
So one of the things I'm so proud of is being the representative for the 14th district is the diversity. Yeah. It is amazing. It goes from the Grosse Pointes to Pontiac. It includes West Bloomfield, Kegel Harbor, Orchard Lake, Southfield, Hamtramck, Detroit. And in each of those communities, I work very hard to connect to those different groups, to hear their voices, to make sure they know that they are represented when I sit in the House of Representatives. And whomever I put my stamp on, they will be inclusive and have the ability to represent multiple ethnic groups. And this is America, and you should not be a one tone voice pony that just only hears a certain voice or only speak about a certain demographic. You have to have the sensitivity and the compassion. We can do this. And one of the greatest moments when I was elected mayor, and I was the first woman and first African-American mayor for the city of Southfield. And this little girl, I was visiting a school, a little black girl, looked at me and she said, "You're the mayor?" I said, "Yes." And she stared at me with that look that only a child can give you. And her comment was, "Well, I can be a mayor too." And that just, the representation goes way beyond compliance to the Voting Rights Act. It's also about inspiring another generation of people say, "I feel like I'm represented because someone that looks like me, someone who's walked those same streets and had some of the similar challenges is sitting in that seat to speak on my behalf."
We're joined by U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence on the MegaCast, representing Michigan's 14th Congressional District, with just about 12 months or so remaining before she will end her time as our representative in the 14th Congressional District. As of course, as we mentioned previously, she announced earlier, just recently, that she will not be seeking re-election to the 14th Congressional District in 2022. On other business at the federal level, of course, we have just recently passed the one-year anniversary of the insurrection on January 6th of 2021. And, of course, there's been a lot that's been done since to look into those attacks, to look into that insurrection, and to attempt to hold those accountable for that day, accountable, of course. And so that being said, in the years since that event, given that you were there on that day, you experienced the horror of being in the Congress at that time, of being in the chambers certifying the election results, both before and after the insurrection, with what's being done right now to look into who perpetrated the event and to hold people accountable that led to that event happening, as well as to those who participated in the insurrection. What is your evaluation at this time of the way that our federal government has been addressing holding those accountable for the January 6th insurrection?
Well, I'm so proud to say I'm a member of Congress and cast my vote to establish a committee that will do an investigation of the insurrection. And I'm so proud of the fact that it's bipartisan and that we are moving forward. We are issued subpoenas. We have conducted hearings. We have been very deliberate and focused on accountability. The one thing that we just had the anniversary is that we want America to know that our democracy was under siege. We were at war. We had an organized body of people who wanted to take away the results of our free and independent vote system, which is the cradle of our democracy, but they did not win. And that is a message that we all have been saying over this period of time of remembrance and reflection, is that they did not win. Our democracy still stands, and that we fought back. And what we're doing now is seeking accountability so that actions, whatever you decide to do, this is America. You have freedom of choice, but there is accountability for when you break the law and when you attack our democracy in America.
We're joined by U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence, representing Michigan's 14th Congressional District on the MegaCast. Representative Lawrence, of course, we're just about 12 months remaining in your term representing the 14th Congressional District. In your final year in office, what are among your goals as you wrap up your political career at the federal level?
My goals is to continue to fight for mental health. Foster children are a priority of mine. The mental health services that we provide to them, and also the mental health as we struggle through this pandemic. You know, when you're in Congress, you pick issues, but life gives you those issues and those platforms that you have to fight and stand up against and speak out against as a member of Congress and as a representative. And I'm proud to say that the history that we will tell of how we voted to put stimulus checks in the pockets of people during the pandemic when we couldn't work, to make sure that every American that wanted a vaccine would be able to get it. We infused money into the school systems so that they could use technology to do virtual learning. It's so many things that we did well, but we're not out of the crisis. It keeps mutating and creating new levels of variants, that we have to continue to fight for this. To stand up for women's rights is still a very high priority for me, and I will continue that. So the mental health, the fighting for rights for women, that I can't believe that we're going to cast a vote hopefully this month on voting rights. We are also voting to ratify equal rights for women. So the battle continues, and I want my legacy to be that when I had my seat at the table, that I fought for voting rights, that my people, my grandmother and Black people fought and died for. And I also stood up for the rights of women that are often being nicked away at, so that we can solidify that it's one nation under God, one, with liberty and justice for all.
And Representative Lawrence, you've been, of course, a representative in the 14th District since 2014. You had a long political career before that, going back to, of course, school board, city council, mayor in Southfield as well. Across your entire career, across all these years and all the different places that you've led, what has been your most proud accomplishment?
I kind of do it in segments. When I was on the school board, I established an alternative school. There were some children we were expelling from school because they couldn't learn in a traditional setting. It was breaking my heart, so I'm so proud of that. Being on the city council mayor, I built one of the world-renowned libraries, a place of learning. I invested in my senior citizens, ensuring that they receive the priorities. I promoted health while I was the mayor, creating the Mayor's Walk and encouraging people to come out and take care of themselves, and youth programs. I was there to cut the ribbon to have a youth center open in the city of Southfield. Now here in Congress, I'm so proud. I founded the Black-Jewish Relations Caucus. We did not have a caucus that came together of members to discuss the issues that relates, that so many common things that the Black and Jewish community have in common. I'm the co-chair of the Women's Caucus, the first time that we've had a Democratic Women's Caucus. And I served with John Lewis. I sat on the floor in protest of gun violence and to fight for some form of gun control in our country. And so I continue to be an advocate for foster youth, hosting interns in my office every year and fighting for their rights and freedoms. And now I have a bill on for digital literacy. One of the things that we found during this pandemic as we roll out, learning and virtual learning, and we have telemedicine, it's an assumption that everyone knows how to navigate and know how to use media and the internet and technology, and that's not true. And so I'm introducing a bill that will create a commission just to ensure that we're putting funds, training, and resources to create a country with digital leadership and skills so that, every American, like we said, every American must know how to read. We ensure that. Well, now this is a new challenge. They're going to have to know how to use technology and have a digital literacy.
Representative Lawrence, thank you very much for joining us and previewing, of course, your goals for your final year in office. And, of course, thank you for all your years of service here locally in Oakland County for our local area in Southfield and surrounding areas as well as at the federal level.
Thank you so much. I want to say again, thank you to everyone who put their trust in me. The trust in me, the little Black girl from the east side of Detroit that stood up and said, I want your vote. And they voted for me. And I hope they know how much I appreciate it. I worked hard every day, will continue to work hard until I walk out the door and become a private citizen.
Representative, we wish you the best of luck in your final year in office, and as we continue to tackle a lot of complicated issues all across the board at the federal level and at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you.